Happy Earth, World, Wind, and Fire Day. I don't know what the fuck it is, but there's going to be quite a major television event sometime soon, I guess, between two of the most intellectual members of Congress. Marjorie Taylor-Greene says AOC has agreed to Green New Deal debate. You know what, Marjorie? You're sweet lady. You try really hard. You're out there, you're pushing a lot of legislation people like. But sometimes the GOP just doesn't quite send their best. But hey, give her props for trying, right? I like her. She seems like she's a really swell lady, but my God. This is going to be like the early 90s, just peak Jerry Springer television, and if it ever does come to fruition, I'm definitely going to be watching this because I don't think you're ever going to find a more intellectual debate out there. So Taylor-Greene claims Ocasio-Cortez has agreed to debate her on the economic policy behind the Green New Deal. Fucking oof. Greene made the announcement on Twitter, where all great decisions are constantly made. Wednesday, posting a photo of her speaking with AOC on the House floor with the message, "I'm glad I finally ran into you today, AOC, to plan our debate about the Green New Deal." In the photo, Greene and AOC can be seen talking with their masks on in the center of the floor because the Nancy Pelosi strictly enforces that, and that's a Biden executive order that he definitely always adheres to, whatever. Though what the two are actually discussing is not known. Obviously, it's just a Twitter photo and they're just trying to set something up, I guess. After I finish reading all 14 pages, little shot, like we agreed, I'll schedule time for our debate, the Georgia Republican added to the caption alongside the hashtag MTGVAOC. Too many letters, not enough brain cells. Greene returned to work Thursday, ready to face off with her Democratic colleague, writing on Twitter, "I read your 14-page Communist Manifesto. It's probably just as enlightening." Anyways, looking forward to debating. A representative for AOC did not immediately respond to the post's request for comment on whether she had, in fact, agreed to the debate. There definitely won't be a debate. There is no way AOC would agree to that. Because, okay, for as much shit and as much shade as I've thrown Taylor-Greene's way so far, and in the past, AOC still pales in comparison. Even just as a public speaker, there hasn't been an interview that AOC has given that hasn't been clippable, that hasn't been memeable. It's because she's not very bright, okay? You see those Instagram videos? She can ramble on for, 35, 40 minutes and, I don't know, fill enough time. Does she say anything of substance? No, it's mostly just ranting on the same talking points that her handlers feed her. Oh, climate change, systemic racism. Ted Cruz almost got me killed at the Capitol. It's a whole bunch of just buzzword shit, or she'll just make stuff up if she doesn't have enough real product to actually fill out her time slot. Like, I almost got killed and I was in the bathroom and I was up against the wall and you guys just wouldn't believe how much danger I was in. Fucking stupid broad. And then when confronted with the information, yeah, like I said, Ted Cruz almost got me killed. This is a right-wing smear job. No, we're just looking at the map and you were a fucking block and a half away, you dolt. But I really hope that this does happen. I mean, at least it'll be some talking across the aisle. At least it'll be a Republican and a Democrat walk into a bar together and joke's on you, the Clintons are still pulling the strings. No. It'll at least be crosstalk between the two parties because so far, so many, except for something we're going to cover in the next video, every single piece of legislation has been along party lines, and there was quite a bit that went on today. But like I said, that'll be in the next video. Right now we're focusing on everything that has to do with I don't know what the fuck's his day called. I remember there used to be Earth Day, or there was a Arbor Day. Arbor Day was right after. That was in the fall. I used to plant trees when I was in school, and I don't know if that's still a thing or it might be racist because they were always evergreen trees. What about trees that turn yellow in the fall? What about trees that turn red in the fall? Exactly. AOC and Greene weren't the only ones debating, or I don't know, cattily calling each other out. Two other bought-out bitches. Xi Jinping promotes Green Belt and Road at Biden Climate Summit. Yeah, Biden held something today. I don't know if he was aware, but he was there, so. Chinese dictator Xi Jinping used his appearance Thursday morning at the Biden administration's Leader Summit on climate to promote China's Belt and Road Initiative. Oh, we just talked about this yesterday, how Australia is slowly kicking it to the road because they realize that this is really fucking retarded. But, hey, somebody heard retarded and Biden thought that he was being called. A debt trap program in which China, sorry, I was going to say Canada. What's the difference at this point? Offers predatory loans to developing countries in exchange for helping build infrastructure. Exactly. President Biden invited dozens of world leaders to address the virtual summit on the occasion of Earth Day, an unofficial holiday promoting environmentalism and other left-wing talking points. China is the world's biggest polluter, yes, closely followed by India, but we're focused on China right now. Responsible for 28% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists. My God, that sounds like the Washington Wives Club that wanted to censor harmful heavy metal music in the 80s. Like, I'm sure they have some good takes on things. That rate is over twice the amount of carbon emissions as the United States, the world's second largest emitter. Oh wow, I thought India was right there. They're in the mix, I know. China has boasted that it intends to increase carbon emissions over the next decade and only peak by 2030, as permitted by the Paris Climate Agreement, while condemning Western nations whose carbon emissions have been steadily declining for the past decade. That's what they do, okay? That's an effective strategy. I wish other people would adopt it. Republicans, seeing what the other side has for values, and instead of playing their game, hold them to their values. You want to bitch and moan about racial equality all the time on your own borders, and then when you're faced up to it, like they were in Anchorage, Alaska, about a month ago at this point, yeah, just hold them to that standard. And when they can't match up, I just constantly make them run on the defensive, which is always, always, always what a certain political party does. Instead of getting to the root of the cause, which would leave the leftists, I don't know, fucking Democrats just holding the bag because they don't have any substance, but they have a lot of rhetoric and they're awfully good at it. China's state-run Global Times described Xi's presence at the Leaders' Summit on climate change as a challenge to Biden and the United States generally on its presence as the world's dominant political power. Chinese experts warned that it would be a big test for the Biden administration, casting doubt over the role of the global leaders on climate change and questioning its true intention, the propaganda outlet claimed. Xi used his time at the summit to promote the newly rebranded Green Belt and Road, therefore would throw off anybody who would think that this might be a bad thing because it has green in the title, therefore it's got to be good, right? As a solution to climate woes, a global plan in which China builds, for a profit, obviously, of course, allegedly green infrastructure in developing countries. Is it longer than 14 pages? I'd like to see this. I'd imagine it's probably chock full of nonsense. To that end, he urged the world not to ignore the contributions that developing countries can make to improving the environment. Let's see where he goes. We must be committed to multilateralism. No thanks. We need to work on the basis of international law, follow the principle of equity and justice. Nothing that has equity in it should have justice with it, unless you're trying to compare and contrast. And focused on effective actions, Xi said, urging a rigid global climate governance. No thanks, not if China's involved. We need to deliver social equity. Nope. And justice can't. Those two statements cannot compute. They do not line up with one another. In a cause of a green transition to increase people's sense of benefit, happiness, and security. Oh, goody. The CCP talking about security. The same CCP which welded doors shut just a year ago to make sure that COVID wouldn't get out of fucking hand. Oh my God. Enough of this nonsense. It just goes on, and it's just more self-defeating, and I'm sure Biden probably already checked out, nodded off, and then just came back to consciousness very shortly. But guess who else was there? Because of course he is, because he doesn't have an independent thought in his own head. Once he got Xi's prick out of his mouth, Trudeau tells Biden's climate summit that Canada has new, more ambitious emissions reduction targets. Because of course he does. And it's pretty easy when you've made most of the country shut down. Oh yeah, we aren't going to be producing any more carbon emissions. That's because in our new government factories, where everybody's going to eventually have to work, it's all run by wind and solar power. Dick. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced on Thursday that Canada is now aiming to reducing emissions by 40 to 45% of 2005's levels. Why not 2004 levels? Why not 2000's levels? Do you even know what the fuck you're talking about? Or just why that arbitrary number? Whatever. After the Liberals blew past previous climate targets. Yes, we need to continue to look forward by constantly bringing up the past. Canada's previous targets were set for a 30% reduction of 2005 levels. The announcement was made during the opening remarks at the Leaders Summit on Climate hosted by Speaking at the Leaders Summit on Climate hosted by PM Justin Trudeau announced that Canada's new climate target is to reduce emissions by 40 to 45% below 2005 levels by 2030. Climate change knows no borders, and we cannot tackle it alone. This is the same guy who probably needs a fucking support dog to take a dump in the morning. Biden and other leaders from around the world from the Leaders Summit on Climate. The summit is an important opportunity to discuss the urgent need and economic benefits of stronger climate action, Trudeau said in a statement released on Thursday. Okay, reading all of that is just your stereotypical run-of-the-mill Justin Trudeau statement. Opportunities, chances, meetings, nothing of substance. Talking about some ethereal thing that really has no target, has no end date. Listen, you said that you wanted to reduce them by 30% of 2005 levels. Even if we agree on that absurd date on the calendar, okay, 2005 levels, whatever. Okay, you got to 30%. That's cool. So now you're just going to all of a sudden arbitrarily just ratchet it up to 40 to 45%. Let's just say you hit that. What's it going to eventually be? 75% of that? And then you're just going to start changing the fucking numbers out there? Why not 65% of 1973's numbers? When more of the country was running on coal and scrubbers weren't invented. But that's not the only virtue signaling that happened today. Of course, we got to talk about fucking Stephen Guilbeault for the third day in a row. Listen, this cuck cannot stop virtue signaling. He is out here every day. And I don't want to have to stump for Aaron O'Toole, but at least his t-shirt has something tangible on it, and it's not propaganda that he's running around with. I love Canada oil and gas, okay? He recognizes that there is a border past Thunder Bay. He realizes that there is still half a country out there. Meanwhile, dumbass has to run around with a t-shirt, and it's weird that two men of very different body types would have the exact same gait, but hey, this is where we're at. He has to run around with a climate change is real t-shirt. You know you're really firm on your policies when you have to continue to run around with them front and center on everything. And remember, this guy's the heritage minister. Yeah, he's supposed to be looking after history. He's supposed to be one of these cultural ministers who really shouldn't have a job to begin with. But he's talking the economy. He's talking online censorship. I don't know how much heritage he's actually dealing with. But if you have a specific job, you should probably be specifically looking after that. But yeah, he mocks this because he's an out-of-touch elitist. From where I'm from, yeah, I see this logo all the time, so it really doesn't fucking ruffle my feathers. And if you get offended by a t-shirt, you should probably just stay at home and self-quarantine for the rest of your life. You know what I've heard is more effective than a mask? About 6 feet of rope. But the world is kind of getting fed up with Justin Trudeau. It's not just me, it's not just you guys, but even the New York Times, which I don't know what to fucking make of them lately. They've been hardcore propagandists, and then they've also been in tandem with CNN, who, I shan't restate the point for redundancy purposes, are calling out Trudeau. And now that the New York Times has put it in print, I don't know what to take of this. Are they tired of him? Are they sick of him? Are the CCP favoring them in the Liberal Party over the propagandists south of the border? I don't fucking quite know. New York Times calls out Trudeau's outsized reputation for being a warrior against climate change. Conservative Party Aaron O'Toole took time on Thursday to comment on Trudeau's undeserved status as a climate hero. New York Times called out Justin Trudeau for presenting himself as a climate hero while achieving next to none of his targets. No, he just got carbon emissions down from 2005 standards, back when he was still substitute teaching. Highlighting Trudeau's outsized reputation for being a warrior in the global fight against climate change, Times journalist Ian Austin and Christopher Favell says that Canada's insistence on expanding output from the oil sands puts Trudeau behind every other G7 country. Oh, see, you can never be pure enough on the leftist scale. It's not that he's a virtue signaling dickhead, it's that he's just not doing enough. You haven't crippled your economy enough for the New York Times, so now the hounds are here to collect. Between Mr. Trudeau's election in 2015, yes, a dark day in our history, and 2019, Canada's greenhouse gas emissions increased by 1%. Oh my god, despite decreases in other rich nations during the same period. It's amazing what you can do, or what you can accomplish, when you get out of these globalist agreements like the Paris Climate Accord. Weird. Canada is the only group of the 7 countries whose emissions have risen since the Paris Climate Agreement was signed 6 years ago. There you go, case in point. This comes the same day that Trudeau bragged at the Leaders' Summit that Canada would be reducing its emissions by 40 to 45%. Enough of this crap. Hilarious. You love to see it. You love to see the left eat its own. And that's all I can stomach from Earth Day. But we got to talk about more legislation that's going on in the United States that could probably have more repercussions beyond its borders. But parsing all this stuff out that had to do with Earth Day, is that what it's called? I don't know. I don't really care either. I found that to be quite important because this is where everything's going to be going. Because it's the newest problem that has come along that has no endpoint, that has no solution, that can continue to be banged on forever because there's enough idiots out there who took an inconvenient truth as the word of God, failing to realize by just simply looking outside or maybe just doing a little Google Earth search and realizing that the ass caps of Kilimanjaro are going to be gone by 2010. Yeah, they're still there, pal. And with that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.